theological. All these points are coming together at this time.
And don't you think that, given what we know, and also, I guess, what we could suspect, that there would be reason to imagine that if, in fact, the Bishop of Rome, who said they were, years ago, that they were already involved in contact, interacting with, if you read, again, I'm not going to stay on Malachi Martin, but if you read his books, he was making a very specific case that there was an incarnation that was set to occur that would, in the final conclave, bring about an individual who essentially is not just under the control of Satan. He could even be in some aspect, not like the Antichrist, but in some reality, kind of a Satan incarnate. In other words, something entirely different about him. And that came back to me when I got to thinking about how the best researchers into alien abduction note these occult rituals. And years ago I did research in which I discovered, first of all, that most of the Vatican's astronomers that are mostly interested, including the newest ones, by the way, that are mostly interested in the alien phenomenon, also are certified exorcists. Isn't that a strange formula?
Absolutely.
The guys who are most called or intrigued or whatever in dealing with demons happen to also be the very ones that want to be astronomers and make contact with this other intelligence. But in any case, I discovered a long time ago that the ancient records, if you go back, you look at the records of the incubus, the succubus, there was always this collecting of human sperm by these night visitors or fluids from women, and they would, depending on whether it was incubus or succubus, they'd use it to impregnate a female host or to have sex with a male host, and how that all of that ancient language is identical in many ways to the testimonies of those who claim contact, and sounds also very much like what Malachi Martin had said. There's another thing that we won't go into, but it has to do with the medieval stories about the devil's mark, and how, according to the ancient beliefs, the devil would mark his victims for identification, and his marks were, scratches on them from a talon, they believed back then. The little straight scars, odd spots, typically in their genitive areas, and same thing today. And what we now call alien abduction, we wouldn't call it the devil's mark, but you have the same kind of marks, the same kind of scratches. So something's been going on for a very long time, and it has an interest in creating. It has an interest in building a body or in altering a human body. And then, of course, the question is, for what purposes? Now, the Vatican's astronomers, so to get back on the European Space Agency and the Vatican, they're really excited about these developments, or at least now they can admit their excitement. And I don't know if you know who Daniel Sheehan is. He's a graduate of Harvard Law School. He's a professor of world politics or something at the University of California. But in the 1970s, he's a Jesuit, I think, and he was the general counsel to the United States Jesuit Office of Social Ministry in Washington, D.C. But what's important about him is that not only is he an intellectual, but he was a special consultant to the United States Congressional Research Office project on extraterrestrial intelligence that had been ordered and set up by President Jimmy Carter. I don't know if you recall that, but he was a special consultant to them for the Jesuits. And now, with what the Vatican's been saying, between Jose Funes and all these guys out there talking, he's writing quite a bit, and he's reminding people that it wasn't very long ago, a couple of years ago, when the Vatican actually called together a bunch of academics at the Vatican for consideration of the philosophical and the theological questions posed by the discovery of extraterrestrial life. You remember that? It was, I think, 2009, and the Pontifical Academy of Sciences there in Rome, Italy, they convened this 5-day conference. There was something like 30 world scientists that went there to the summer residence of Pope Benedict XVI's grounds, and they in the Pontifical Astronomical Observatory. I don't remember who all, but it was a conference that was called by the Vatican to ask astronomers and astrobiologists from the United States, France, Britain, Switzerland, Chile, to present to the Vatican's philosophers and theologians, and actually even just a number of the members of the Catholic hierarchy among the College of Cardinals, to have them to present to those members of the Catholic hierarchy what is the mounting evidence of the existence of sentient life on other planets outside of the solar system. Well, now that's what the public understood this meeting was all about. But what Sheehan is saying, and he would know, is that the principal purpose of the conference was to actually indoctrinate, help, adjust, introduce the leaders of the Catholic Church to prepare for the reality of extraterrestrial intelligence, technologically advanced, non-human, sentient civilization that is in the universe that evidently some in the Vatican were aware of, but many others were not. It's protected knowledge, right? You need above security clearance. The Vatican basically introduced what today in the U.S. we call above top secret security clearance. But at the conclusion of that Vatican conference, at the time, the Jesuit director of the Vatican Observatory, Father Jose Gabriel Funes, he convened a press conference, and I remembered it, but I didn't realize the coded language that he was used that has now been brought out by Daniel Sheehan, in which he said publicly, he had a press conference. It was an official press conference at the Vatican, and so whatever he said would be official language. It'd be approved by the Vatican. And he said the questions of life's origin and whether life exists elsewhere in the universe deserves serious attention and offers many philosophical and theological implications. Okay, well, that doesn't sound like much to start with, but that the term theology was raised as a topic that would need to be reconsidered as a result of this new knowledge of extraterrestrial intelligence was consistent with 1 year before that, when he was quoted in the official Vatican newspaper, you know, the what's it called, the El Osservatore or whatever it is, Romano, and he was quoted as saying that if other intelligent beings do exist elsewhere in our universe and they are discovered by us, then they too will have to be considered to be part of God's creation. Well, what Sheehan is saying is that on the face of it, that statement doesn't seem like an important event, but what is unbeknown to most of the non-Catholic world, at least, is that Funes' specific choice of words was a precise restatement, exact wording of a key aspect of the official Catholic Church's edict that was issued in 1277 by Bishop Tempier, the Bishop of Paris, in which the Catholic Church officially condemned St. Thomas Aquinas' theological proposition, I think it's proposition number 34, in which Aquinas had publicly asserted that the first cause, meaning God in Catholic theology, cannot possibly have created other worlds. That was officially condemned by the Catholic Church on the specific grounds that it would set limits on God's creative freedom and the idea that God might have other sentient creatures living in other places. Well, the precise words are those that were deliberately used by Father Funes in 2008. In other words, Funes was sending a specific message that the bulk of the world, guys like me, we would never catch what he had just done. But according to Daniel Sheehan, a Harvard Law School professor who's currently a professor of world politics at the University of California, and more specifically was the United States Jesuit of Office Social Ministry Council who worked with President Jimmy Carter on this subject matter. What he's saying is that Funes was sending a specific message that only Catholic scholars would get. Basically, the time is here. The time has arrived. So is he overstating the facts? I don't know. But to announce this new official policy of the Roman Catholic Church acknowledging the likelihood of the existence of extraterrestrial life elsewhere in the universe in 2009 seems really suspicious to me. The fact that the specific year 1277 Catholic edict that condemned the proposition of Thomas Aquinas that there couldn't be other worlds with intelligent life, that was used by church authorities, I don't know. I think he's right. I think there was something there, and now these words are pointing Catholic leadership to the idea that we've made contact with morally.
I think it's bigger than that, though, Tom. I truly do. Because in all of my conversations, and I'm talking 2 decades with people in the know, the whole plan is, and this is what the argument has been, will the Antichrist be a possessed human being, or will it be an alien with claims that they created even Jesus? There was, are you familiar with the term the aviary?
Yes.
Well, you remember their claims is they even have like the equivalent of the DROPA disc, DROPA discs, that would indicate that they have, if you will, their version of a video recording. And so I think it's this: how do they reconcile the God of the Bible and the aliens who are going to claim to be our, if you will, originators? In other words, first cause is, as to a Christian, obviously, and to those of us who believe that God literally spoke the worlds into existence, this was the issue that even Zecharia Sitchin wrestled with. He could never admit that the Anunnaki could be fallen angels or rebellious angels who were created by God with free moral choice, and yet all of his research, a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it, was both historically accurate, uniquely, how should I say this, researched, and you could only draw one conclusion. So how is it that, what is your opinion, Tom, based on what you're studying now? We've got obviously the final pope coming on. We've got the false prophet mentioned in the book of Revelation. We've got the Antichrist, the beast. We've got all these different people. But how are they going to swing, 1.2 billion or however many Catholics there are, to embrace this idea that there's no really, the God of the Bible was just a metaphor for our alien benefactors? I think, panspermia is the order of the day.
Well, that, and also, of course, the world could be shocked into going along with. Imagine, that you've got suddenly an armada of ships as big as the ones in that movie Independence Day that are hovering over the major cities of the world. People are going to quickly turn to the government and to who they consider to be their religious leaders for advice, and they'll pretty much step into lockstep, I believe.
Well, that's the answer. Yeah, that is the answer, in my opinion, and I think that you've brought that up in times past. Now we've seen, you can go on YouTube, you can see all the triangular-shaped aircraft or spacecraft that the Skunk Works has designed, and I want to give you a quote because I think it's so important that people understand this. Lockheed Skunk Works is the U.S. government contractor, big-time defense contractor that's had their secret stuff in the background developing it since Roswell. Reverse engineering alien stuff that's been found all over the world, and I've had special operations guys tell me that the focus and the maximum effort is spent in black projects is acquiring ancient technology and alien technology. So here's a quote. I know you've read this before, but he says, quote, "The former head, Ben Rich of Skunk Works, we already have the means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects and would take an active God to ever get them out to benefit humanity. Anything you can imagine, we already know how to do." Now, this is the guy that was head of the most top secret, most, if you will, alien when I say alien technology was their forte, reverse engineering it. And interestingly enough, that was he died, I think, at the age of 69, and he died very shortly after coming clean with that. By the way, there's a video on YouTube of that entire speech. So given the fact that you said something critical, Tom, we're going to be shocked into it. YouTube's now showing base ships of horrific size that are basically drawing drawing their energy from the sun.